What's up, guys? This is Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our Week 3 team builder for the NCL Season 2. This week we are taking on my good buddy Jay and his UNC Wingulls. Jay drafted a really odd team this season, not taking it super seriously, and he drafted mostly under base 100 speed, despite the Tornadus Therian. So let's go through his team real quickly here. He's Clefable, Bisharp, Haxorus, Cloyster, Rotom-Mow, Volbeat, Mega Camerupt, Gothitelle, Dusclops, Hitmonlee, and Tornadus Therian. He has priority options in Bisharp with Sucker Punch, Cloyster with Ice Shard, Rotom-Mow with Sucker Punch, Dusclops with Shadow Sneak, and Hitmonlee with Mach Punch and Fake Out. He has Hazard Setting in Clefable with Stealth Rock, Bisharp with Stealth Rock, Cloyster with Spikes and Toxic Spikes, and Mega Camerupt with Stealth Rocks. He has removal options in Cloyster with Rapid Spin, Rotom-Mow with Defog, Volbeat with Defog, Hitmonlee with Rapid Spin, and Tornadus Therian with Defog. And he has two 4x weaknesses, Bisharp to Fighting and Mega Camerupt to Water. Now, just to sort of preface this before I get too deep into this team builder, you'll notice if you follow Austin's videos as well that he is no longer doing team builders for his videos, and he's doing a completely different format, which I think works perfectly for him. Personally, I am a huge fan of doing team builders. I love explaining my thought process, especially for myself looking back on these videos later. I know they don't get the views. I know most of them don't get any, well, some of them don't get any views at all. I'm not fussed about that, to be honest with you. I love filming the team builders. I love the thought process that goes into building. It's some of my favorite parts of playing Draft League is the building itself, not necessarily the battling, but like building a set that can just win, you know? So now that that's done, let's talk about what I think he's bringing. I think Clefable, Bisharp, Haxorus, Cloyster, Rotom-Mow, and Torn is going to be his team. I really think that's going to be his team. Volbeat doesn't make a whole lot of sense against me. It does make some sense to encore me into setup moves. Mega Camel, I don't know how much sense Mega Camel makes. It's really just too slow, and he dropped an extra Trick Room sitter for himself. I'm not entirely sure what he's going to do there. I believe only Gothitelle and Dusclops. Oh, pardon me. I believe only Gothitelle and Dusclops are his only Trick Room sitters now. I'm not entirely sure if Clefable gets it or not. Dusclops, another mon I'm not entirely sure if is coming. This is a big maybe for me because Dusclops could be really good against me or it could be really bad. And then Hitmonlee I think might come but might not. So the thing with Hitmonlee is that it's an amazing revenge killer against my Alolan Sandslash unless I'm running Choppleberry, but it's horrific against the rest of my team. It's really there for Alolan Sandslash, Barrel, and Alolan Raticate, which are all of my fighting weaknesses. But then I have a ton of fighting resists and really good physically defensive bonds, so I don't really think Hitmonlee is coming. I don't think it makes a ton of sense because he can't really outspeed anything on my team unless he runs a Choice Scarf, which could be a possibility, but even if he is Choice Scarf, again, I have good fighting resists on my team, so we'll see about that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Clefable makes a ton of sense against my team. Running like an unaware Clefable like he did last week against Dom makes a lot of sense against my setup team. Bisharp I think makes a lot of sense just to Sucker Punch me. Haxorus I think makes a ton of sense just because it sort of outspeeds a lot of stuff on my team naturally. And a Dragon Den set can win. Excuse me. An SD set from Haxorus does not win. It's too slow, so he can't run SD against me. Cloyster, new pickup on his team. I believe Cloyster will come. I don't have the best answers for it, but I do have an amazing answer for it that we're bringing. Rotom-Mow makes a lot of sense against me just to sort of pivot around. I could see like a Scarf or Specs Rotom-Mow showing up, and I don't have the best answers for that, but I've got one answer, which we'll see shortly. And Tornadus Therian is faster than my entire team, and I think it's going to come to get some good pivot options. I think bringing like a Z Tornadus Therian makes a lot of sense from him just to nuke something. Otherwise, I think that Haxorus is going to be Z. So that's sort of my thoughts on his team there. So let's start talking about mine. We're bringing a fully physically defensive Melodic. I believe it's the exact same set that we ran against Daniel last week, potentially. It basically hard walls Haxorus and the Cloyster, and we're running phasing and Dragon Tail for the Haxorus and the Cloyster. I'd rather not run Haze when I can run Dragon Tail. So the problem with that, right, is that Dragon Tail can miss. It's a 90% accurate move, I think. And so if you miss, you're in a worse position. But instead of having to take a hit and phase him, I can phase him, do damage, and potentially phase him over rocks if I bring them. Excuse me. I'm a big fan of Dragon Tail normally, and especially doing super effective damage to Haxorus and getting that chip off is really good. Breaking something like a Sash on Cloyster so it can't come back in and Shell Smash again is really good. And I wanted the phasing in case Gothitelle tries to trap me. If Gothitelle traps me, I can Dragon Tail it out, and then I can switch out so that the Gothitelle can't just set up Calm Minds in my face or anything like that either. So that's kind of the purpose for Dragon Tail. I do think that Dragon Tail is the right call this week over Haze. I really do. The only problem is that Clefable kind of just gets to set up for free against me. If he's unaware though, I can Scald Burn him and get some residual going on there. Recover's there for longevity, and Ice Beam is there if I have to hit the Haxorus, or if he's going to try and set up in my face. +1 Haxorus can kill me because Mold Breaker will go through my Marble Scale, but I'm hoping that it won't. So that's sort of the idea there. Fully physically defensive, and then I'm running Relaxed so that I get more damage off of Dragon Tail, and I don't really need the speed for anything anyways, because it's melodic. I don't really care about outspeeding stuff. Excuse me. I'm still naturally outspeeding Clefable. I believe I might still be naturally outspeeding the Bisharp if he's running no speed. Same with Cloyster. So we'll sort of see how that goes. He does have a lot of setup options on his own team, and I'm pretty sure that Dragon Tail is going to come in handy this game. Next up is Sylveon. We're bringing Penny for the first time this season. Penny is a fully physically defensive utility set this week with Leftovers and Heal Bell, Wish, Baton Pass, Hyper Voice. Baton Pass is there. Again, it's a very passive mon, and I don't want, if Gothitelle does come, I don't want Gothitelle trapping it. So Baton Pass is there for me to get out. Heal Bell I think is going to be really clutch because he could burn me with Dusclops and Rotom-Mow. He can Toxic me with a bunch of things on some of my bulkier mons, and I just really want to get Heal Bell off. It's kind of counterintuitive with Melodic, but it's not the end of the world. Because he dropped Porygon 2, he actually has worse Hyper Voice switch-ins now. In fact, I don't think, like, his best Hyper Voice switch-in is actually Mega Camerupt, which isn't a very good Hyper Voice switch-in because it doesn't have recovery for itself. He does have a Wish Passer in the Clefable. I don't know how often he's going to bring Wish Clefable. He did bring it against Dom, Wish Unaware. So we'll see if that happens. Otherwise, Hyper Voice kind of just decimates a lot of his team, getting really good chip damage on things, and it hits a lot of his team really well. Like, Haxorus and Hitmonlee getting hit by it are super solid, considering Sylveon can kind of come in on them pretty easily. Haxorus would have to run Z Poison Jab, Hitmonlee would have to run Z Poison Jab as well to be able to kill the Sylveon. Wish passing into my walls could be really useful, or Wish passing into my sweepers later could be really useful. The Sylveon is sort of just around so that the sweepers can either clean up late game or my walls can stay healthy. Fully physically defensive, like I said, I don't believe that Sylveon is necessarily going to have to be a special sponge this game, so that's sort of Sylveon's role. I'm not running any speed investment because I would like to speed tie the Clefable. At some points, I could see it being nice for me to actually outrun the Clefable. In fact, I might just be a little bit slower than Clefable. Now, I instead of dropping at 1 IV to be slower than Clefable, I'm going to stick with this because if Clefable puts me in a spot, if Clefable ever puts me in a spot where I need to outspeed it on one turn, then I'd rather have the speed tie option there and it be a roll. Next up is Superior. We're bringing Superior's this is the second time now? Let me check this. Yeah, I brought Superior last week as well. We're bringing Defog again with the Assault Vest this time. This is our specially defensive wall with Leaf Storm, HP Fire, Dragon Pulse, and Giga Drain. Dragon Pulse is there to pretty much annihilate the Haxorus, and it's really good neutral damage on pretty much anything else that resists the grass. So specifically the Tornadus is kind of what I'm thinking there. Leaf Storm boost with Contrary is ridiculous. I can also switch this in on Clefable and hope that he gets a Moonblast special attack drop, because then I will get a special attack raise instead, and I won't have to rely on Leaf Storm hitting all the time. Giga Drain is there for some recovery because this is my fastest mon on the entire team, so it's going to outspeed everything not named Tornadus. And HP Fire is there pretty much exclusively for the Bisharp and the Rotom-Mow, but I do think that that is a good enough reason to bring HP Fire. I could have brought HP Ice, which would have hit the Tornadus as well as the Haxorus and the Rotom, but I did feel like Bisharp was going to kind of stand in my way at some point, so we'll sort of see about that. We are running a little bit of speed on the Superior. In fact, we could have run less speed, but I decided that I wanted to put in more bulk on the Superior and more special attack investment, and so I went with Timid. We are running enough speed to outrun the Haxorus. You'll see that that's a very common trend coming up because it's his fastest Pokemon under base 100. We're running max HP and then a little bit in Spadef, and I wanted enough special attack investment to put me at 200 special attack. I thought that that was a nice even number to multiply with Leaf Storm over and over again. So that's sort of how I split the Spadef and the special attack there. Otherwise, I was just running with full Spadef, but I would like to get a little bit of damage before getting a Leaf Storm boost. Next up is Thanos, our Mega Pinsir. We're bringing Hyper Cutter. I didn't really see a need for Moxie or Mold Breaker this week. I don't foresee a situation where I'm not going to be in Mega Form against his team, realistically. And Quick Attack is... Okay, so Quick Attack is there pretty much exclusively to revenge kill things like the Haxorus and the Cloyster. Especially if he plays Haxorus like he did last week, where he ended up attacking first and not Dragon Dancing. But Haxorus doesn't get any priority moves, so against the Cloyster, Quick Attack can be very useful if it's not carrying the Ice Shard. I don't know if he would have room for the Ice Shard. We'll sort of see. If he does, then Melodic completely hard walls it, or he's like a spike setting set with Ice Shard. That could also be an option. But in that case, I wouldn't need to Quick Attack because I have Close Combat. Return is demolishing his team. He actually doesn't have a return switch in. Like Bisharp's still taking a ton of damage from return just because Bisharp's not super bulky, and I have the close combat for the Bisharp anyways. So yeah, basically he's got to be really scared of Mega Pinsir. I think Mega Pinsir actually kind of demolishes his team based on how slow it is as well. He has no switch-ins, and so I have the feeling that Mega Pinsir is sort of going to be a hit-and-run type Mon this week, which is why we're not running Swords Dance. I really do feel that Vortex is going to benefit me a little bit more this game. Close Combat's exclusively there for the Bisharp. It's really not hitting anything else better, bar Cloyster. I think it will hit the Cloyster a little bit better. And Knockoff is there primarily for the Gothitelle. I can knock off an item and then just spam return on it over and over and over again if he decides to trap me. Although I don't know if Shadow Tag traps flying types. I'm not entirely sure about that. I don't know what he would want to lower my attack with Hyper Cutter, but I'm sure that there's a move out there that he could do it with, and it just sort of felt better than running Mold Breaker, which I really didn't see was going to do much for me unless I was running SD to break through Unaware Clefable. And Moxie again, I don't really see a position where Pinsir's going to be able to pick up a kill in regular form before Mega Evolving. Although this might be the week to do it because his team is extremely slow. So that's sort of what I'm thinking there. Running enough speed to outspeed the Haxorus, max attack, and the rest into HP. Next up is Dyrus. We're bringing Specs, Rotom-Heat. This does a lot to his team, to be honest with you. He doesn't really have a great answer to this. If Mega Camerupt comes, then it comes. But if it doesn't, he has no way to block my Volt Switch. I can also run Trick to cripple something like the Haxorus if he's not running a Z move, cripple something like the Bisharp, cripple something like the Clefable. I really do think that that's going to be pretty useful. Volt Switch is really good against his team, minus the Mega Camel. Overheat is just decent damage, especially against things like the Bisharp and the Rotom-Mo. It's also going to do a lot to the Cloyster, but Choice Specs Volt Switch is actually an Oko, the Cloyster. And then I've got Hidden Power Water on there because Mega Camerupt is going to be his Volt Switch switch-in, and HP Water, it's basically going to be his Rotom-Heat switch-in, is Mega Camel, and HP Water is going to demolish that. This is actually the second iteration of Rotom-Heat that I've gone through. Initially I had a Shukaberry Will-O-Wisp set that could take on Haxorus because Mold Breaker obviously breaks through my Levitate, and then Earthquake can pretty much Oko me because I'm 4 times weak to it. So Shukaberry negates that, and then I can Will-O-Wisp him. Unfortunately, Will-O-Wisp isn't 100% accurate for fire types, so it's really risky, and I decided to go with the Specs variant. We're running max speed on this to speed tie with his Rotom if he's a regular Rotom-Mo, then we'll speed tie him and we can overheat him and kill him. Max special attack and a little bit into defense. It might matter for something like the Bisharp Sucker Punching or the Cloyster Ice Sharding or something. Who knows? Mach Punch, all of those things. Last but not least, we have Snowcone or Mew. This is the third iteration of the Mew set that I went through. Initially, I had a Scarf Trick Mew to cripple Porygon 2 and Jellicent and Clefable, and then he ended up dropping those. So I ended up scrapping that idea, and I like this idea a lot better. A Nasty Plot Mew actually completely destroys his team because it outspeeds pretty much everything, and it gets a super effective hit off on almost everything as well. The only thing stopping this really is Unaware Clefable, and I have a super nuke for Gothitelle anyways, and it's a pretty decent nuke for the Clefable as well. We're running a Nasty Plot, Shadow Ball, Psychic, and Ice Beam with the Ghostium Z. So Never Ending Nightmare is going to pretty much destroy the Gothitelle or the Dusclops. It's a really good nuke against anything else that is neutral against, which is anything besides Bisharp. Like I said before, dropping Porygon 2 means he has no Ghost Resist on his team outside of Bisharp, and no Ghost Immunity. Psychic is really good stab. It's going to beat the Hitmonlee. It's basically going to be my best damaging move against pretty much everything bar, I think, Haxorus at +2, and then Ice Beam is there primarily for the Haxorus, although it's also going to be able to hit the Tornadus Therian, and the Rotom-Moat. Ice Beam is just pretty good coverage against him. Ghost and Ice seem like they're really good coverage options against his team now, so that's what we're running on the Mew. 232 speed lets us outrun the Haxorus, and max special attack, a little bit in HP. Mew is our late game sweeper. Initially, I did have on the Scarf set, I was running like Flamethrower, and then I changed it to Vacuum Wave. I changed it to Specs Vacuum Wave, actually, because it could OHKO Bisharp. However, I decided Nasty Plot was the way to go, and I decided to opt out of running Vacuum Wave. This set kind of relies on Bisharp being dead to sweep, unfortunately. Just because I don't really have a great way to hit the Bisharp with this set, unfortunately. But I do have good ways to deal with the Bisharp. Melodic is a really good way to deal with Bisharp. Superior outspeeds it. Sylveon's a good way to deal with it. Sylveon's an okay way to deal with it. Mega Pinsir is a really good way to deal with it as well. So, and Rotom as well. So I feel like I have the answers to Bisharp that I don't really need to run a coverage move on Mew to hit the Bisharp. Otherwise, I should be running like a Life Orb 4-attack set on the Mew, in my opinion. Flamethrower would be just as good as Ice Beam in this scenario, and it would hit the Bisharp, but unfortunately I wouldn't be hitting the Haxorus for super effective damage, which I believe is the best mon against my team. I will consider changing it to Flamethrower. In fact, I'm double thinking myself here, and I do think that Flamethrower is maybe the right play, just because I can't kill the Bisharp otherwise. So, oh god, Ice Beam or Flamethrower? Yeah, I think we're going to go with the Flamethrower. We'll go with the Flamethrower there. I'll have to redo that set on my front office. But there you go. That's the Mew set. So that's my team against Jay's. I know team builders don't get a whole lot of traction, but if you did end up watching all this way, let me know what you think of the team, and let me know if you want me to continue doing team builders. Whether or not I continue doing them is kind of up to you guys for the most part, but at the same time, I do love doing them, and I don't feel like it's a waste of time, but if it really is a waste of time, then I will stop doing them. Especially because it sort of gets my thought process out there and lets people counter team me a little bit better. I do feel like I've improved a lot as a battler to a degree where people can't just counter team based off of my team builders anymore, but we'll sort of see how that goes. So anyways, let me know, and I will catch you guys for the match.